Preparations for the funeral of IFP founder and President Emeritus Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi are well underway. The 95-year-old politician passed away at the weekend and will be laid to rest on Saturday in a Category 1 special official funeral. The Buthelezi family has issued a plea following yesterday's memorial service, calling on mourners to refrain from visiting the family home. They've asked for space and time to prepare for the funeral. Throughout this week, political parties, religious and traditional leaders and IFP members have been streaming into the home to pay their respects. Buthelezi's body is expected to travel to his home tomorrow ahead of the funeral on Saturday. Let's get more on this with SABC News reporter Simphiwe Makhanya, who's standing by for us in Ulundi. Very good afternoon to you, Simphiwe. Lots of activity there, I'm sure. Just take us through what's taking place.
Well, Nzinga, as you said in your introduction, that initially the family had requested privacy, especially today, to prepare for the sending off of the late former IFP founder and President Emeritus Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. But of course, as you would understand, it would be difficult to control the thousands and thousands of people who have been coming here really throughout the week to pay their respect and also offer their condolences to the family. In fact, as I speak to you now, I'm going to ask my colleague Raymond Mbele just to give you a sense of what is currently happening now. We are seeing the mourners from all walks of life really converging at the home of the former IFP founder and President Emeritus, that is Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. This has been the case, Nzinga, since the news broke of his demise on Saturday. And of course, what you are seeing there in your visuals are members of AMCU, as well as some of the different church denominations that have been coming here to pay their respect to the former IFP founder and President Emeritus Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. From where we are sitting, Nzinga, we can certainly confirm that preparations for the funeral on Saturday are at an advanced stage, or when it comes to the issue of sending or rather conducting the funeral, which is expected to be taking place on Saturday. And of course, I'm not alone, Nzinga. I've got my colleague who is our politics editor here, Mzwandile Mbeje, who is going to take us through what we can sort of expect as we get closer and closer to Saturday. Shandu.
As you are aware that Prince Buthelezi, a very good afternoon to the viewers, that he is multifaceted. I mean, he's a traditional leader, he's a politician, and of course, he's a family man. So what is happening currently in the family here is that they are still busy with issues that are relating to rituals. But of course, the political aspect, the one that you dealt with it yesterday. So we expect the proceedings to start in earnest tomorrow when he is brought home. Remember, before he is buried, he needs to come home from the mortuary. That's where you'll see some of those elements that will play themselves out, and of course culminating on Saturday. And we know this funeral, Makhanya, Mr. Makhanya, is a special official funeral Category 1. So that funeral is normally reserved for outstanding individuals. Remember, there are a number of funerals. So you'd have state reserved for the president, then semi-state reserved for the deputy president, and of course outstanding individuals, so will be given this one. So of course there are others that are lower than this one. So in this instance, for an individual who is not necessarily the president, this is one of the most important category.
Yesterday during the memorial service, and of course throughout the week, we've been hearing different voices from politicians, Shandu, who have really been saying that Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi has been a man of peace, a committed servant of the people. What sort of message do you think stands out for you when you bear in mind that, of course, the sentiments are not the same when you listen to other voices from elsewhere?
You see, politicians, they have a particular way of telling a story. So we may not always agree with them, and sometimes we will agree with them. Also, what they normally say, politicians, is informed by the context. So what is it that you want to achieve? So when you listen to to politicians, you'd also look at the context in which they are saying it. As I've said, Prince Buthelezi has lived for 95 years. So in that 95 years, yes, there are so many good and initiatives where he was involved in peacemaking. But there are also other aspects where people were not happy because of certain issues that happened. In fact, one of the things that people kept speaking about was the violence of the 1990s. Remember, he was the head of the IFP. If those who were supporting him were seen to be attacking people, so you can't then absolve him from that. So his history is really multifaceted. But of course, in his later years as an elder statesman, of course, he provided a lot of wisdom.
Let's speak about his legacy now, Shandu. I mean, you are an observer of politics. You know how politics work. For a man to be in charge of a political party since 1975 until 2019, it must say something about his character.
Certainly, and it then tends to entrench that cult personality. But I think it's good that in 2019 then he let go of the reins. But here is what I'm saying when you talk about things around cult. In fact, even today there's a debate within the IFP as to who is going to be the face of the party. I suspect with his departure, Simphiwe, is that they may use his face to say we are honoring his memory. Why? It's exactly what you've just said. That long service from 1971 to 2019, so basically tends to get into that aspect. But of course, he founded the party, and I think at the time it may have been very difficult to get someone who was going to replace him and pursue exactly what he wanted to do.
Another side of him, Shandu, as you alluded to it as well, is the issue of him being the traditional prime minister, having served 3 kings. I mean, which is something that is basically historic if you look at the influence that traditional prime ministers do have in the AmaZulu monarch. But take us through that particular journey, and also bearing in mind that towards the later, years of him being, assisting the current king, there were issues there. Talk to us about that.
Okay, I'll be very brief. He served the grandfather of the current king, and he served the father of the current king, and then of course he helped install this king. But as you and I know, there's a Zulu language, I've been saying this, which says umbeki wenkosi kabusinayo. He who crowns the king does not necessarily rule with him. Remember, you have helped to install that king. So once that king is on the throne, he has his own character. He has his own way of looking at things. It may not necessarily be that which you, the person who helped him to ascend the throne. That's exactly what we saw happen here. The issue of the Ingonyama Trust was at the center of this disagreement that we saw right till the end. Because part of the negotiations was this issue, and then that's where the Prince Buthelezi felt he achieved by actually getting this Ingonyama Trust to be recognized. So because that's your legacy, so you feel there's a particular way in which it should continue. Now, someone new is taking over. As much as he perhaps may accept that, but the fact of the matter is that he may not necessarily think like the Prince was thinking.
Shandu, we'll have to hold it here for now because of time constraints, but of course we will continue to look at all the other areas that pertain to the life and times of the former IFP founder and President Emeritus Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, as of course we prepare for the funeral which is going to be held on Saturday. There is a state or special official funeral category 1 as declared by the President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa. It's back to you in studio, Nzinga.
Thanks so much, Simphiwe. Makhanya. I can also see our colleague Natasha Piri there. The SABC news team will be on the ground to make sure that you've got rolling coverage and really eyes in different angles to see what's happening on Saturday and in the lead up to that funeral.